The NBA offseason is just getting underway for all the teams that did not make the playoffs or the play-in. And for one team in particular, the Milwaukee Bucks, things are already falling apart. To be quite frank, it's turning into an absolute shit show in Milwaukee with Doc Rivers already being out, Giannis looking like he's on his way out, and the GM under fire. We're going to talk about just how bad things are for the Milwaukee Bucks right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel, by the way. The analytics tell me about 50% of the viewers aren't subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow. But we're going to talk about one particular team. All the topics are just revolved around one team on this episode, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. First things first, after the Milwaukee Bucks last game yesterday, Doc Rivers officially stepped down and, admittedly failed to meet expectations. Now, there are some things that came up about meetings with players and all type of things that happened in regards to Doc Rivers and his exit. But he did say this, right? He said this directly. I've truly loved my time in Milwaukee. Coming back to where I got my start, to a city that has always embraced me, has been a privilege. I'm disappointed that things did not turn out the way any of us hoped, but I am deeply grateful for this experience, the relationships built, and the unwavering support from our fans and the community. Milwaukee will always mean a lot to me, and this chapter will hold a special place in my heart. Now, this is yet again with the Milwaukee Bucks looking for a head coaching search. Like, it just, the Bucks have been, it's been such a down spiral for them literally since winning the NBA title. And that's what makes all this crazy for the Milwaukee Bucks, is that, all this happened after they won the title. A place where you think, oh, you won your title, you got over the hump, let's start building, let's start moving forward. And unfortunately for the Milwaukee Bucks, no, that's exactly what did not happen here. The Milwaukee Bucks actually lost ground. They took steps back, all the type of stuff that came happening for this team. Just overall, what happened is that this team it didn't have the infrastructure, right? Like, I think many people remember Coach Bud was on the precipice of being out before they won the title. He then won the title. It held off for a little while, and then they eventually moved on from him. And so that's what happened there. And then you bring in Adrian Griffin, who actually had an above 500 record. And then, Doc Rivers reportedly made to pull some stuff behind the scenes there that got him up out of there. And so now you look at it. Since, winning the title in 2022, the Milwaukee Bucks have they've gone through Coach Budenholzer that didn't last to the end of 2023. You had Adrian Griffin that came on. He was there, for a little while. Then you had Doc Rivers that came on in 2024 to 2026. And now you're just sitting in a situation where now, like, what's going on with the coaching? But that's not even the biggest problem with the Milwaukee Bucks. The coaching search is one, right? The Doc Rivers experiment, it never really happened there. But then let's get into how this organization is overall in chaos, right? Let's get to the Jon Horst of it all, right? That situation, because that's the guy who's running your team. That's the guy who's running the day-to-day, who's building the rosters, things like that. It came out with him yesterday. This is from The Athletic saying this. Multiple team sources detailed how they believe Horst's behavior changed this season. When the Bucks were annually competing for the NBA's best record, Horst was a fixture around the team, regularly attending shoot-arounds on the road and popping in the locker room to chat with players. They felt as his Horst presence this season was more sporadic. And so now that this is going on with the Milwaukee Bucks, of course, everything's going to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb, right? But apparently Jon Horst and his behavior has changed, which, as the person who's running the show and trying to set the tone there in that franchise, I'm sure that that's something that's there. Also, reportedly, that Horst in the Bucks front office had a spat with Antetokounmpo regarding his desire to play down the stretch of the year, which they sat him, which I still think is the thing to do to maximize your opportunity to maximize your opportunity at a lottery pick this year, which just makes sense. But at the end of the day, now, while they increased their draft position, which I think is really good, now you have Jon Horst that just seems detached. And maybe that is something that, his hands were tied. I don't know, right? I'm not trying to throw any bell to NBA front offices because we know enough of them make bad decisions. But you also got to look at Jon Horst like, he tried. And, like I said, on yesterday's episode, that there is something to be said that a front office that continually tries. But effort and accomplishment are two very different things, because while he did try, the Dame Lillard, the Kyle Kuzma trade, the wave and stretch of Dame, the signing of Miles Turner, like, these are things that he absolutely tried, but they did not work out for the team. So, Jon Horst, another guy, has to look himself directly in the face for his responsibility in all of this, because at the end of the day, like, this is a direct reflection of the roster that you were able to build, and you were not able to keep a roster enough together to be able to put Giannis in a position where he felt like the best situation to win is in Milwaukee. We'll get into Giannis's recent comments as well, which throws a whole nother light in regards to this. But let's just be clear here, right? While I talked about yesterday that luckily after next season, which next season is going to be a bit rough for the Milwaukee Bucks, but the Bucks have luckily stayed under the second tax apron. They're under the first tax apron as well. They are $24 million beneath the first tax apron next year, and that's without making any trades. We'll see what happens with Giannis and stuff like that. But this is a team that's still mortgaged enough of its future. You had your own first-round pick this year. That's why it was great to maximize it. But it's going to Atlanta in 2027. It can be swapped with Portland in 2029. It's going to Portland in 2030. So you have another swap potential in 2031 as well. So like it's your stuff is just not all your own, right? You don't own your own first round picks outright for the foreseeable future. You have no tradable first round picks until 2031, 2032, and that's why they probably shouldn't have been looking to trade them, right? So you now have that and the Jon Horst aspect of it. So you have it with your coach, gone. You have a coaching vacancy. In your front office, you have a GM that reportedly his behavior has changed and he has become more detached from the team. Maybe that's the focus on what you had to do. Maybe that's the emotional aspect of realizing what all is going to have to go into really digging yourself out of this hole that you put yourself in overall, and how much time is going to be there. Maybe it's just the reality that your job is probably not going to last past all of this. It's probably not, unless the Milwaukee Bucks get the number 1 overall pick, which is a possibility, and draft a AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson, a Cam Boozer, whoever it ends up being. Unless they do that, there's a high probability your job, the timeline has already started on you for that. Right now, if you do, you have Ryan Rollins, you add AJ DeBonsa to that, you trade Giannis, maybe you get some young pieces back in the Khalil Ware if he goes to Miami or something, and then maybe you feel like you have a core there, right? But so you have problems with the coach. He's gone. You have problems with the front office. Jon Horst is detached. But then you got to get into the Giannis aspect of it and the Giannis Antetokounmpo part of the future. So for what it's worth, Giannis he was talked to reporters after the Milwaukee Bucks last game, and he was asked about a reporter whether he would sign an extension with the Bucks if he wasn't traded this summer, and Giannis said this: "But what would you do basketball-wise? Money doesn't mean nothing to me. Zero, absolutely zero. What means something to me is winning. What would you do? Take money out of it?" And, and he didn't get an answer from the reporter. He then said, "We'll see when we get there. Until we get to October, it's 8 months, 7 months. It's a long time." So you have a star that's non-committal to staying with your roster. Of course, why would he be committal to staying in a place where he doesn't feel like he's the best to win? But I also got to call some bullshit on Giannis here. If money didn't matter, cool. That's great. Take a buyout from the Milwaukee Bucks, and then go to whatever team you want to. Don't worry about a trade. Go to whatever team you want to. Even if it's a team that's over the cap, you can take the vet minimum and do that. Is he going to do that? Hell no, right? So, while Giannis is uncertain about his future with the Bucks, getting an extension and then getting traded could be the thing there. The extension could be part of the trade. We'll see what happens there when it comes to Giannis. But I think it just comes down to it. Giannis is clearly frustrated, right? And that's the reality of it. Giannis was also asked about being held out in regards to it. He also asked if reports suggesting that he refused to participate in practice. He said this: "At this point, zero. I don't have control. Being cleared to play, I don't understand. From my understanding, coming back to play, which I don't think I ever had any return to play protocol, but to my understanding was I had to play 3-on-3 to be able to be available to play. I did that multiple times. I never in my life denied participation in practice. I don't know who said that, who came up with that, but that's disrespectful towards what I've done for this team and the way I carry myself for my whole career, pretty much. I felt like sometimes people don't listen. They don't listen to sources. The main source is me. It is what it is. So again, do not disturb on my phone. Go about my day, improve, and come back better." I mean, I don't know what else to say in regards to that. Giannis is basically laying it all out as best he can in that case. So, I think that when it comes down to Giannis, he's battling with winning versus loyalty. And I do think he has a loyalty to the franchise of the Milwaukee Bucks. He does have a loyalty to the city of Milwaukee. You hear it when he talks. It's evident, it's clear, it's something that you cannot overlook. Giannis loves the city of Milwaukee. And I think that he's even battling some with the decision that has to be made in regards to his future and move on from it. He has to do that. That's going to be done one way or another. And it's just the reality of the situation. And so, the Milwaukee Bucks now, what's next for them, right? That's what this all comes down to. It's what's next for them. The coaching search. But then again, you have coaches that very well could accept the job, but I'm sure the thing that's going to be on the thought process of everybody who's interviewing for the Milwaukee Bucks job is Giannis going to actually be here, right? And I think that's a fair question for anybody to ask in regards to that, but that's going to be a question any coach is going to ask. Is Giannis even going to be here if I stay here, right? Then you have that part of it. Okay, so then if Giannis does stay, what then do you do with your roster to compete, right? If Giannis does leave, what type of coach are you getting in there? Are you looking at a young, up-and-coming coach that can build a program, develop players over time, things like that? Because that's the thing that's going to be there. And then you have the aspect of trade versus rebuild, right? The Giannis thing is the biggest story. The coach, you're probably going to hire a coach before you even get a chance to trade Giannis because you need a coach in mind, but you ideally want your coach before you go into the draft and stuff like that, the draft process. But the moment that Giannis could be traded as early as is the NBA draft. Does that happen then? And then when you look at the offseason outlook for the Milwaukee Bucks, like I said, their financial situation isn't the most terrible. They're going to have a mid-level exception they can use to add some players. They have a number of expiring contracts. Look at next season. Kyle Kuzma's an expiring contract next season. Next year's the last year on his deal. Bobby Portis is the last year. Well, he has a player option for the second year, but he can be looked at as a bit of an expired contract, but it is a player option, so that's in his control. Kevin Porter Jr. has a player option for next year. He may opt out of that to get more money. You never know what's going to happen there. And then you have a combination of players in Gary Trent, Gary Harris, Taurean Prince, Jericho Sims that all have player options. A lot of those guys could be off the books as well, as they may look to go other places, especially if Giannis isn't expected to stay there. So the future outlook for the Milwaukee Bucks is just one that is like, what the fuck is going to happen here? I have no idea. And it really all hinges on Giannis Antetokounmpo, because if Giannis tells the Milwaukee Bucks, no, I'm staying, I'm signing an extension here, I would not be surprised if they try to flip that lottery pick to get a win now asset in here and actually help them try to win now. But if they don't have that security from him, and maybe they should do it anyway, hold on to that lottery pick, draft the talent, because you're the Milwaukee Bucks. You're going to have to draft your best talent. That's just the reality of it. A few franchises have to do that. Hell, my Chicago Bulls, one of the biggest markets in the world, they have to draft their talent usually because they fuck up too much as a front office. And so what this all in conclusion is just to say is that the Milwaukee Bucks are a jumble of a shit show. And as we go through this, and, I'm going to make my way through the teams that didn't make the play-in first and go team by team. But as we look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they are one of the situations that is the most confusing out of any team in the league right now, mainly because of the Giannis situation and how that even affects you even trying to hire a new head coach in regards to is Giannis going to be here or if he's not going to be here, because the level of coach that you want and that you can probably attract drastically changes depending on what the answer to that question is. And that's where the Milwaukee Bucks, that's what Jon Horst, that's what the ownership has to do. And so we'll see if they can come out on the other side of this. But I want to turn this one over to you guys, right? When you feel about the Milwaukee Bucks, do you think Giannis is staying or going, which is still a bit of a wild question because I think the writing's on the wall. Giannis is going to get his ass up out of there. But do you think Giannis is going to stay or go? And then what path should the Milwaukee Bucks take? Should they go on young talent and just ride it out and see where it's going to go? Should they trade their lottery pick to try to appease Giannis Antetokounmpo to show that they can still bring in some key talent? Or should they just go the path of probably the least resistance, blowing up their whole entire roster, trading Giannis Antetokounmpo, trading off whatever veterans to teams that want them, and start building around your lottery pick Ryan Rollins and I guess Ousmane Dieng as well, and what other young picks and players that you can bring in here, and then do that. Let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.